You're listening to Three's a Crowd, the North East Footy Podcast, with Rye for Borough, Steve for Newcastle United, and Ted for Sunderland.
Good morning, everybody. I said good morning, everyone. Welcome to Three's a Crowd podcast, the only Northeast football podcast where we talk Newcastle, Sunderland, and Middlesbrough with a bit of banter, a bit of laugh with these two lads beside me. And it's a good morning to you, Mr. Steve Wraith.
Morning, sir. How are you?
Very well, thank you so much. And a good morning on a sunny morning. He's had his streaky bacon. He's had his eggs. He's joining us, thankfully, with his sunnies on, Mr. Teddy Mackams. How are we, mate?
I'm very good, mate. I'm very good. I've been relegated to the roof terrace again because Mrs. Ted is on night shift, so I'm not allowed to use the spare room and be noisy.
You are very noisy.
Clearly, we just have too much of a good time. I did complain about this, by the way, but I did jokingly ask her who she thought she was talking to, but now I live in witness protection, so...
You never go against the Roosters, that's for sure. No, thank you so much for joining us. So we have a bit of an earlier kickoff. We do apologise, but we are here every Saturday or Sunday. Make sure that you click the subscribe button or like, and make sure that you follow us on our socials to be keeping up to date whenever we go live. It is a big, big weekend of football before another international break, lads. Can you believe it? Another international break on our doorstep. The World Cup is creating havoc as much as... Is it Storm Amy, Steve? I believe Storm Amy coming through England at the moment.
Yeah, all storms are named after women, so for obvious reasons. But yes, it is quite settled at the moment. But it's causing chaos around the country. So not great, mate. Not great. I did when we come on in the green room before we started the show. Ted sympathised briefly and then said, "Yeah, it's not very good here either in Cyprus. We've got a few clouds."
Yeah,
looks it. Yeah, looks it. Doesn't it? Looks it.
We all have to suffer.
Let's get into the football. We have got a massive weekend of football. None other than Teddy Mackham taking on Man United, who could do with a win or six. I tell you what, it's going to be an amazing game there going over to Man United, Sunderland. It's been a while since you've versed Man United, I do believe, but it's a good old trip to Old Trafford. Might be falling apart, as is the club. But a good time to take advantage today, Teddy boy. And then Middlesbrough, obviously, you're travelling down to Portsmouth, second time there down to the South Coast in a week. And Newcastle are taking on Nottingham Forest, where Big Ange, our big Australian, is struggling at the moment for a win. But can Newcastle get back into form after that? That penalty. We were talking in the green room before. Let's go over the results that we've covered between the weeks. Newcastle had a big win in the Champions League, but unfortunately, Steve, we've got to kick it off with that game against Arsenal, mate, where I said to you just before we kicked it off, and Teddy boy, I said to you as well, I thought it was a straight stone cold penalty, but Arsenal getting the candy at St James's Park last weekend, mate, in what I thought was an unfortunate game because of, the decisions and stuff like that. But look, Arsenal came out on top.
Yeah, I went for a 2-1 win to Newcastle. I thought it would be a tight game. Fair play to Arsenal. Best Arsenal team I've seen at St James's for probably 5 or 6 years. They've, they came with a game plan. Arteta clearly had them wound up, and they reacted. And I think Arteta got everything right, including his substitutions. And, the amount of shots that they had on goal, you're talking 20 plus shots on goal from Arsenal last weekend. It was very un-Arsenal-like. So, credit to Arteta. Let's not take anything away from him. I think Newcastle would have counted themselves lucky if they'd sneaked a draw. They certainly didn't deserve a win. But, football, doesn't always work on the stats, and as far as Newcastle were concerned, I think they can count themselves hard done by that. Gabriel wasn't sent off for a punch in the face of Voldemort. Would it have changed the referee's mind or VAR's mind had Voldemort hit the deck from the punch? Possibly, maybe it would have been looked at. I don't even think it was looked at by VAR. I've watched the game back now, and there's no reference to it being looked at by VAR on the commentary, so you would imagine it wasn't. And of course, in the dying embers of the game, Newcastle find themselves, 1-0 up and then 2-1 down. and we have a situation where Elanga goes, charging through, hits the ball into the box, and is a blatant handball. Gary Neville dismissed it at first in live play, then watched the replays and said it was a cast iron penalty. And it's just disappointing, really, that once again consistency with officials lets us down. However, I'll always say the same. It does balance out over the course of a season. When you're in the kind of position that Newcastle are, we're not going to go down. We're not going to win the title this year, but it will balance out. It will balance out for us. So I'm not overly disappointed. What we did need was a quick response, and thankfully, with the games coming thick and fast, we managed to do that on Wednesday. The big blow, of course, last weekend was losing Tino Livramento. I hate to say there's a plus point when you have an injury, but Tino looked as if he'd gone down in a crumbled heap, and it was his ACL, which, of course, with the injury he had prior to signing for Newcastle when he was at Southampton. The good news, if there is any good news with an injury, is it was only a medial ligament injury, which means that he will be out for 6 to 8 weeks. He'll miss a lot of games, of course, because Newcastle have got Champions League, Premier League, Carabao Cup fixtures coming up, but it could have been a hell of a lot worse. It could have been worse for Borough as well, because Newcastle would have had to look at maybe he's recovering target. From Middlesbrough, who's doing really well there. So thankfully, good news for Middlesbrough on that score as well. But good to see Tino is not going to be laid out as long. And the other positive news we've had this week is that Jacob Ramsey, who we didn't expect to have back until the Brighton game after the international break, is available for selection tomorrow. The downside of the news this week was that Johan Wissa, precaution, he hasn't had a setback. He, as a precaution, is being rested until the West Ham game, which is another 3 or 4 games out for Johan Wissa. I wouldn't be too disappointed. It is disappointing. I'd rather the player came back fully fit. And there's nothing wrong with Voltemada. Voltemada is doing very well. We need the wingers to start doing their bit, which they did on Wednesday, of course. But hopefully, that can lead to a decent performance, which we'll look ahead to against Forest tomorrow.
It's going to be an interesting time for Newcastle, obviously looking to secure some points in the Premier League very quickly, Teddy boy. Obviously, I watched that Arsenal game, mate. I thought it was a stonewall penalty. I thought it was an interesting game, again, for the neutral to watch. Obviously, at St. James's Park, a rowdy crowd, as it always is. And, the punch that I saw on Waldemar was... I don't know how they get away with it. I mean, we're down in the Championship. We're going to get into it. I don't know how we reached. Soon. We're down in the Championship, mate. We're obviously you're full aware of it last season, where we had multiple refereeing decisions with no VAR to back them up. Well, in the Premier League, you have the VAR, and they're still getting decisions wrong. Does that shock you that now that I've been in the Premier League? I mean, I haven't seen many Sunderland decisions this season go in the wrong way. I mean, but that for me was a blatant handball.
And until we get a VAR decision that goes against us, I will be a massive supporter of VAR. Yeah. No, listen. Let's be honest. The punch. Yeah. To be honest, I'm really surprised that hasn't been punished retrospectively, even after the game looked at. Yeah. It's it looked naughty. And all joking aside and all that, the handball. We touched on this before we went live about these commentators say, well, it came off the player's foot and then hit his arm. It's this weird media directive that they have where they're almost trying to create their own rules or give some sort of justification for it. It was a handball. It's as simple as that. It's whether it comes off somebody's backside, somebody's shoulder, off somebody's head, and then hits their arm, which is in an unnatural position. It's a handball, mate. There's no 2 ways about it. It's handball. That being said, I agree with Steve. I think Arsenal were very, very dominant. That's about as dominant as I've seen them in a few seasons, in fact. Traditionally, they do not travel well to St. James's Park, so I think that was as much about Arteta having a point to prove, maybe to himself a little bit, and give a performance, because I haven't seen them give one like that for a long time. Last time I seen them play that well was for 45 minutes. Where they went 4-0 up, but of course we know how that game ended because they were absolutely trashed for the second 45 minutes, and Newcastle got 4 of their own. But yeah, listen, they did the right thing, Newcastle, as in they got a win during the week, which sort of put the disappointment to bed. Obviously, yes, Premier League points are at a premium right now, and you're going into a game tomorrow, Steve, against Nottingham Forest, who we're going into a similar game where Man United's manager absolutely needs 3 points here.
Oh, yeah.
Ange needs 3 points as well. And I think both of us are going into games where their managers are going to be very, very nervous about how their team performs.
Yeah,
if there's any sort of indication of those, if either of those teams turn out a nervy performance, I think both Newcastle and Sunderland could have a whale of a weekend, to be fair.
Yeah, not wrong. And I think obviously going into the international break as well, it gives those teams both time to probably make an announcement, if the results were to go poorly for them this weekend. I mean, Ruben Amorim has been on thin ice, you'd have to say. I mean, we've seen rumours all week of Jimmy Ratcliffe not having enough, and wanting to pull the pin, but then not wanting to pay him out. And then you got Big Ange, defending questions after 6 games, of being replaced.
24 days in charge.
It's incredible. He's already under pressure. So it's a massive game, and we will get into that. Let's not gloss over the big win midweek as well, Stevie lad, mate. A big win against Union SG, 4-0 in the end. I mean, it was a fantastic performance by Newcastle United to bounce back from what was utterly a disappointing loss to Arsenal. I think there was some disappointment in the air. I mean, we were all disappointed more so that Mikel Arteta can't stay in his own touchline box. But, midweek, great performance in the Champions League, one you needed to bounce back from again against Barcelona, and did so with some statement as well.
Yeah, I mean, let's not get carried away. It's a Belgian team. The Belgian Premier League is not the same as the English Premier League, but from a confidence point of view, it was a much needed boost for Newcastle and Anthony Gordon in particular. Anthony Gordon hasn't been, digging up any trees in the last few games. He's looked a shadow of his former self. I think as well, all of the wingers have suffered greatly with the departure of Isak, and it's always going to take time to adapt to, playing with a new type of forward, somebody who plays the game differently. Hopefully that game midweek will be almost like a blueprint how they move forward, certainly starting with Nottingham Forest tomorrow. But yeah, listen, good performance. I'm not convinced about the second penalty. The first penalty, yes. The second penalty, no. The most pleasing thing was that fourth and final goal. Harvey Barnes doing what he does well, come off the bench, making an impact and scoring a wonderful goal. But it was the play to create that goal as well. The finish was great. But yeah, Newcastle have been playing some good football, and despite me criticism of them in the Arsenal game, when Newcastle did get forward, we are playing some wonderful one-touch football this season, which last season we were keeping a hold of the ball, trying to walk it in. This season we seem to be doing something a little bit different. The frustrating thing is that we haven't got like an Isak-style finisher up front who would be taking advantage of all the wonderful play that we've got at the moment. But I think essentially everybody across the board played well. I wouldn't be surprised if Newcastle went for a relatively unchanged team at the weekend against Nottingham Forest, because we have then got the international break, people are away, but I don't think you want to upset the balance too much. Nick Pope, again, pulled off a couple of crucial saves. He was superb, by the way, last week. The mistake that he made was, of course, chucking the ball out, which led to the corner, which, the rest is history. You can't criticise him last week. No. He had a great game, and he held his hands up for that mistake. Our back four is starting really to take a wonderful shape as well. We've got good defenders, which we know are getting older. But Matt Chow, he's what a snip he has been at £30 million. And Sven Botman has finally, by the looks of it, I'm going to touch wood, got over these injury problems that he's had. And he literally looks the Colossus that we signed. So, we've got great backup at full-backs, we've got great centre-halves, we've got 2 good goalkeepers. Nothing wrong with that back four at all. The midfield, as we know, we're doing well. Credit to Lewis Miley, who came in. The biggest compliment I can pay Lewis Miley, although he wasn't on the pitch a hell of a long time, I didn't realise that Joe Linton was gone. So Miley's starting to come into his own. He's starting to find a position which essentially he can probably replace Joe Linton if he's injured or if he's suspended. So there is that opportunity for Miley now, and I think he's starting to get into his mindset where he wants to be and what he wants to do. We've got no problem with our wingers. They just need to learn how to play with Altamara. And Asula is growing more confident with the more game time he has on the pitch.
Agreed.
And he's starting to create problems for back fours when he comes on. So I think we're doing okay. We haven't had a great start. We haven't had an easy start. And there are going to be easier games on the horizon. So I am still confident with Newcastle. But yeah, it was a great win. Very pleased with it. First away win in the Champions League for a long time, but biggest away win we've ever had in the Champions League. 4-0. Very impressive. Very pleased. Sets us up nicely for 2:00 tomorrow.
No, done very well. We have been looking back at the start of this Three's a Crowd pod. I hope you're enjoying your time. It's time to talk about Middlesbrough's performance against Stoke, which was a midweek game in the Championship.
I'll still be quick.
For Rob Edwards. Okay, Ted. Okay. All right. Just keep catching those seagulls, mate. It was the most frustrating game I think I've seen in Rob Edwards' tenure. I mean, it was a game of two halves. We played very well in the first half. The second half, we were absolutely abysmal. And it looked like Mark Robbins had come to play. Tactically, both teams were trying to get... It was a weird sort of link up to the game, and I don't know how to describe it to you, lads, but obviously Mark Robbins is the coach now of Stoke City, and we've got Adi Vivesh, who was his number 2 at Coventry for all those years when Mark Robbins was the coach of Coventry. Now, those two had a bitter splitting up to the point where they were not on talking terms, and they ended up having to be split up, in tunnels and stuff like this. Anyway, they both got dragged away, and then Mark Robbins goes on to greener pastures in Stoke. Adi Vivesh now with the Borough. Now, it seemed like Mark Robbins was trying to get the tactical something or other upper hand, making 5 changes to that Stoke City team midweek, and then Rob Edwards as well, going for the first time ever, we saw a back 4, not seeing those wing backs that he's been employed. Now, it does make a lot of sense without Callum Britton, but it was just an interesting tactically sort of battle of minds, I thought it was, leading up to the game, and we saw arguably a first 45 minutes where Middlesbrough dominated, and we had a penalty, and I don't care what anyone says, but Tommy Conway getting booked for diving was absolutely a joke. It's about as a joke as it is the weather where Ted is and where England is at the moment right now. I mean, it was ridiculous, and Tommy Conway, we need VAR. We wanted VAR in the Championship. You guys don't want VAR in the Premier League. I tell you what, we wanted a replay of that one because Tommy Conway was a clear penalty, and we should have had that in the first 45 minutes. The second 45 minutes, we don't really need to talk about it because Stoke suck. But apart from that, it was honestly, we managed to, again, lads, get away with a point. And I think it's another statement for me because Middlesbrough, even though we haven't been playing well, we've now come off 2 games where we have played Southampton, obviously coming down from the Premier League, having a bit of money to spend, and we had Stoke City, who, Ted, you're fully aware of how Stoke set up. It's the most boring type of football you've ever seen.
Anti-football,
we managed to come away with a point again, and it's about that whole adage of when you're not playing well, you still walk away with a point. And I thought Rob Edwards managed that well. He brought on 2 defenders towards around the 85th minute mark when he could see that there was no winner going in, that we were going to then take a point. And I thought that was quite classy, Ted, from Rob Edwards, because, I mean, if we're not going to win, mate, at least we're not going to lose.
I think that's why the game was the way it was, is because you got 2 very similar style managers, I believe, who, I'm not saying they play defensive football, but they do know how to set up defensively. And a bit like Sunderland in the respect of let's make ourselves really, really difficult to be beaten. I mean, to be honest, that game, I would maybe start and show it in young offenders' homes to discourage them from re-offending again, because it was the most dire game of football I think I've watched in about easily the last year. It was I have to admit I went to bed at half time, mate, so I didn't see the second half. It was it was just 2 sides who cancelled each other out, and you kind of think, should Rob Edwards have actually changed the way that Middlesbrough play? Because I think the points were there for the taking, and I think had there been, Middlesbrough playing their normal style of football, I think they would have sneaked the win there, and I think it's potentially 2 points dropped. I'm not saying that's the end of the world because you're unbeaten. You're the top of the Championship. There's nothing wrong with that at all. I just feel like that was a little bit of a missed opportunity to get 3 points off what is going to be, by the looks of things, a promotion rival come the end of the season.
Yeah.
When do you play Coventry?
We got them in 2 more weeks. So we got obviously an international break after this weekend, and then we come back, and I think we've got one game.
That's going to be some game.
And then we've got Coventry. Yeah, not wrong.
That's going to be some game. Yeah.
Yeah. No, we're looking forward to that.
Like you say, mate, you're still picking the points up, which is all you can do. And you are going to get those frustrating games where teams now will come to the Riverside and put a block in place and just park the bus, because take that as a compliment. Middlesbrough being a very good footballing side for the Championship, which they are. But yeah, you're going to find it a little bit more frustrating, I think, in the coming weeks and months, because they're starting to figure out and starting to know what to expect now. But I still think Middlesbrough will get promoted, mate.
Yeah, I honestly thought it was an impressive way to get a draw, if that's, if you can even say that, Steve. Obviously, Middlesbrough still being able to pick a point. Matty Targett, again, was fantastic on the left. Middlesbrough had to sort of adjust because we lost George Edmondson to a hamstring injury within 2 minutes, which made Matty Targett, and they're again slotting into a centre-back role. And honestly, he can do centre-back and left-back with ease. And I'm quite very happy that Tino Livramento's injury hasn't meant a recall for Matty Targett, because he has been absolutely fantastic in that left-back. He will start again today against Portsmouth. I have spoken to the club as well and told them not to be answering any calls from St. James's Park. They have agreed. So that's all good. So we're not going to be picking up the phone if Eddie Howe is ringing. We've got him on speed dial. But honestly, I'm just enthralled that we're able to not play well for a good 45 minutes of football, mate, against a Stoke City who came in arguably to defend and still walk away with a point in what was a pretty measly affair.
It's a marathon, not a sprint. There it is. I've said it again this week. I'll keep saying it.
Steve Wraith, bingo.
It is, yes. It's one of them, isn't it? It's one of those situations. You lose those games right, and you lose the momentum. As long as you don't get beat, you're doing okay in the Championship, and you're going to be there or thereabouts. It's coming very obvious now that Frank Lampard and Coventry are your biggest rivals. Yeah, they are going to be the team that push you all the way. And from your perspective, you need to win that game in a couple of weeks' time against Coventry. And it's very like the year we blew the Premier League. You beat Man United home and away, you win the league that year. You beat Coventry home and away, or draw against Coventry away and beat them at home. You're more or less assured of finishing above them, I think, because there's no doubt that Rob Edwards has got that team playing very, very well, and he has got the momentum which you need and the consistency to do this, and he's got the experience as well, which is a big thing. So is Lampard, mate. I think I said on this podcast when we first started it that Lampard really is the Championship manager. He's a very good Championship manager. He's like your Rob Edwards. He's like the Sam Allardyces of this world, who at the time could get you up and keep you up. They would find a way of keeping you up. So I think Lampard will. Will he have more resources at Coventry? I'm not sure. They've had financial problems over the years. Maybe this time they've got it sorted. It's going to be interesting. It's a fascinating race, and there are other teams that will push you. That's the key. But yeah, listen, it's not doom and gloom. I know that little lead that you'd created has been chipped away now. But the best way to remedy that is get 3 points this weekend at Portsmouth, and and suddenly things look a lot brighter. But yeah, keep drawing at home, winning your home games. You're not going to go far wrong, but you're going to need to pick up a win this weekend. I think really to put the pressure back on to Coventry.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And obviously Coventry nipping at our heels, much like they have been for the past couple of seasons. I mean, it was the game against Coventry that saw Chris Wilder sacked. Then we get Michael Carrick in. Guess who we lose to the playoffs in that season under Michael Carrick's first thing? It was Coventry again. Guess what Michael Carrick's last game in charge of Middlesbrough was against? Coventry. And guess who's now second with us, equally undefeated in the Championship? Coventry. If you could just leave us alone, Coventry, that'd be great. Thanks. Message from all Middlesbrough supporters there. I tell you what, get off our backs. We're looking forward now to this weekend. We've got some massive fixtures. A trip to Old Trafford for Sunderland and the Mackems. Can you believe it? And Newcastle taking on Big Ange at Nottingham Forest. And Middlesbrough will be travelling to Portsmouth, the second time in the space of a week that we have to travel down south as well. Fans travelling 1,300 miles. the benefits of living at the Northeast, lads, I tell you what, is incredible. Having to go to the other side of the country for some of our affairs. I mean, Teddy boy, over to you, mate, because just before, I want to get into, obviously, everyone's favourite cat of the week. But before we do, mate, I just wanted to get just a general feeling of what it's like as a Sunderland fan at the moment. And just take us in, obviously, to Troll of the Week at halfway, because to be able to go to Old Trafford as a Sunderland fan from, let's say, look, 16 months ago when Michael Beale's in charge, if I had told you in 16 months' time you're going to have away chip in the Premier League to Man United and probably be favourites as well, I had a look at the odds, mate. You are actually favourites. You're $2.05 in Australian dollars. This is, I do apologise. At Old Trafford, I mean, it's unbelievable to be heading to Old Trafford as favourites against Ruben Amorim's squad in Man United. Yeah,
it's a bizarre kind of turnaround in the club's fortunes, really. I'll give you a, for instance, I'm a little bit of a gamer. I love playing Xbox, so I've got the new FIFA, and I'm looking at FIFA, and they announced their team of the week, and there's a Sunderland centre back in there, and I'm kind of going, we've got a team in the Premier League, and one of our centre-backs is making Team of the Week in FIFA. Also, for Player of the Month, out of the 6 nominations in the Premier League this month, 2 of them are Sunderland players. Yeah, which is just absolutely. The start of the season has just been unbelievable. Yeah. And there's this morning I was away at my barber's. Panny, he's an Arsenal fan, and people are talking about, wow, Sunderland they've really started this season really, really well. We are catching a lot of people unawares. The win last weekend was typical of what we can expect for this season. We're not going to win every game. It's going to be a challenge, and I refuse to believe we're favourites going into this game against Man United. It's Man United. I don't care where they are in the league. It's still, because of reputation alone, it's still one of the first fixtures you look for. It's just like that, this club going to Old Trafford is a big deal.
Can I ask you this way then? If Sunderland get the points, obviously at Old Trafford, does Ruben Amorim have a job?
He's got to go.
He loses
I
to
think,
Sunderland.
I think even if we get a draw, I think he's gone.
Steve,
I agree.
I
agree. Listen to the way that he's talking as well at every press conference. He has wanted the sack since last year.
Yeah.
And Melly Barnes, our Man United
mate, shout out to you, Melly.
He was defending him. He was defending him to the hilt right at the start of the season. But even he last week, when I messaged him, more or less said, he's not got long left now. Next week, he was referring to this week, would probably be the death knell for him. But where does it go after that? You can't keep sacking managers. You can't keep sacking managers at all. The problem that Amorim's had at Manchester United is very simple. Manchester United's problem has been the board, the owners, Glazer. And I really am not qualified to talk about it as much as this man. Good morning,
oh, Melly. You live and breathe, eh?
Where are you?
I'm in beautiful Lanzarote, mate.
Oh, have a look at that. Yeah. Next door to Ted, by the looks of it. Welcome to the show. Obviously, we have got the big Sunderland taking on the Man United today, mate. I mean, obviously, it's a massive affair. We were just talking as we brought you in as well about it potentially being Amorim's last game. Now, you've obviously been talking to Steve probably off air and obviously on your amazing podcast, mate. But can we expect a new Man United manager after the game, regardless of what the result is today?
For me, I don't know how well you know me, but I'm very much always a manager in, not out. Yeah. I was the same with Tyne, and I'm the same with Ruben Amorim. When you look at some of the players that we'll have, we went down to Brentford there. I haven't had much to complain about Man United this season, to be honest, and that might shock you because when you look at the games, we've absolutely battered Arsenal, and nobody's done that to them since. We went to City, we got beat 3-0, but we're on stats, we beat them. I know stats doesn't matter. The only other game this season that we've played really was Fulham, where I didn't think we played too well, but Brentford was absolutely disgraceful. And I personally think that There's nothing wrong with the system. People are buying into this free at the back. It's not very often you'll see free at the back. I think these players are picking up £5 million in wages every week. And if a Morum gets sacked, you know, there's another manager gone under these players, and I just think it's absolutely disgraceful. I think they need to pull their big boy socks up, realise who they play for, put in a performance, because not one of them deserved their wages that they picked up against Brentford. Pull up their big boy socks and put a display on. But today we welcome Sunderland. It's actually the first game I've missed at Old Trafford since COVID, and I'm absolutely gutted. But you've got to take Sunderland seriously. I mean, they've went to Palace, who's been the strongest in the Premier League this year, and came away with a draw. They've just beat Forest away. They're absolutely flying. So they're no idiots, you know. But to get back to your question, it probably, if they get beat today, then it probably is the nail in Morum's coffin, which is sad, really.
Yeah. No, it's going to be an interesting affair. Obviously, we were just talking to Teddy, and the disbelief of where Sunderland were 16 months ago to be now travelling in the Premier League as an away day to Old Trafford, and arguably going in as, you know, some betting agencies have them as favourites as well, which is incredible to see, just given the saga around Man United. The biggest thing for me, obviously, I think, Melly, is that obviously the name that is Manchester United, to see a club that's, you know, of Man United size. I mean, every kid, you know, regardless, even down here in Australia, mate, regardless of who you are, you know who Man United is. Even if you've never watched football or soccer, as they call it down here in your life, you know who Man United is and you've ever heard of them. But it's incredible just to see where they are. And I think Ruben Amorim, and Steve, I want to ask you this, Melly, because Steve just said this just before we got you on as well. He thinks that Ruben's been angling to be leaving. I mean, the way he thinks he's been speaking and presenting himself in press conferences. Have you, as a fan, been able to pick up on his tone and the way he speaks, that he doesn't want to be there, or have you sort of seen just a man that's just so passionate, but it's just hurting him so much?
You know what? Me and Melly speak all the time. We speak every weekend. We wind each other up, mind the gap, etc. But we're both football fans who go to games, which you know is quite important to both me and Melly. Home and away, we travel. We do the hard miles. And Melly knows what my opinion is about Amorim. I felt last season that Amorim wasn't happy. And again, this is only based on my opinion. I just feel Amorim walked in. I think he came in with all these ideas and what he wanted to do, like the managers who came in previous to him. And I just think it's not what it says on the tin. I think because he's walked into that club and they are in such a mess financially, I think he has not got the control over the things that he thought he had the control of, and I think that's a huge problem. You know, for him, he's a successful manager. He's come from doing very well in another country. He left the club to come to Man United, and I think it's just shocked him. I think it's shocked him because Manchester United isn't just a football club. It's a worldwide football club. Everybody knows Manchester United, and I think what shocked Amorim is how bad things have been run behind the scenes. And I said Ratcliffe was a patsy. Ratcliffe's a fan. He lets his heart rule his head. He's come in, he spent a lot of money, and he's not been able to change things either, because the Glazers, for me, I've said this on Melly's podcast, the Glazers for me will remain to be remain as the problem. But until they decide they've had enough and something happens with them, I just think you're always in this. So you're asking about the football related stuff. I just think Amorim's he looks like a rabbit in the headlights. And whenever he's plonked in front of the media, he hasn't got a clue what to say. And he contradicts himself. He comes out with things about, I think his press conference yesterday, I can't quote him verbatim, but he came up with something along the lines of, it's not about being sacked, it's about losing games. And I'm thinking, well, losing games gets you the sack. You know what I mean? It was like a weird thing to say, and he's not doing it in a Cantona clever way. Like Cantona's a very intelligent guy who comes out with things which mean something. Amorim just hasn't got a clue what he's going on about. I think it's having a nervous breakdown, and I think for him, he's got to look at his health, but he's also got to look at his future in football management, because this really is embarrassing. And I don't understand. And Melly hadn't clocked on with this one. What did he take me centre half off for? What did he's done it 42 times. 42 times he's rotated the centre half in a game. And I'd love to know if that's part of the system or whether that's just he hasn't got a clue what he's doing. But I can't see anything other than, like, it's a funny game today because, like, Newcastle fan, you don't want Man United to win, you don't want Sunderland to win. Probably a draw will suit me. A draw will suit me.
I was going to call it the Steve wants it to be, the both want to be beaten 4-0 derby, isn't it? Really, that's the way you see it. Melly, I just want to ask you, mate. I mean, one of the things that I noticed in terms of, like I say, I still show this massive respect. I grew up watching Champions League football when we were down in Division 1 and having that respect for Man United. But when I see the likes of Mason Mount playing left wing back, mate, I mean, do you think this is a case of just Amorim's not being backed with the signings he wants, and he has got an actual system he wants to play?
He's had 2 windows, and, well, you can see 1.5 windows. And the players that he's brought in, I'm quite happy with. If you look at Mbembo, Kuna, Sesko, they're going to take time to gel. I think they needed to go out and buy Belieber, like, pay whatever you needed to do, just get that defensive sitting midfielder. Because that's what we're missing ultimately, and then that'll free up the rest of them to can't play. I think Kuna was bought because Bruno is basically on his last season, so he's going to replace Bruno. I think he needs time. I do, and I'm not one of them that once the manager sacked. We've got, despite what Steve says, I agree with quite a few of your points, by the way, Steve. We have got stability behind we now. The Glazers are having nothing to do with it. We've got Wilcox in there, you've got Barada, you've got Jim Ratcliffe, and they're doing the right things. They are. I mean, for the first time ever, I think we came out with a profit this year. That hasn't happened for years, although we're still in debt, quite amount of debt. But things are changing, and they want Amorim to work. Amorim was their choice. They want him to work. And to be honest with you, if Amorim is given the City job, then he's a totally different manager. Like, you would see totally different results because he's got the tools to play with. He's been brought into Man United and he hasn't got the tools to play with for what he... Yes, he should adjust. I totally agree with that. He should be able to adjust. And I didn't get this, why he keeps changing what back four. So he is making mistakes. Of course he is. But it's not as bad as everybody's making out, in my opinion. It's nowhere near as bad. I mean, if you look at some of the games we've played, we've absolutely battered teams, but it's the same old story. You don't put your chances away, you're not going to win games. So you batter teams, and then all of a sudden you're 2-0 down, and they kind of get back up from that. Whereas if we score our early chances and we're 2 or 3-0 up, it's a different game. The second half, it's a different game. You can just sit back, enjoy the game, keep the ball. But until we get to that point, his job's under threat, which is unfortunate because you've got 11 players on that field, professionals who've gone through ranks, who've gone through School of Excellence, and everybody that's watched them went, oh, he's good. Yeah, he's definitely good enough. And then they get to this stage and they put in some of the performances they're putting in, and it's not right. It's not right. I don't agree with it.
It's going to be an interesting game. And as we lead into it, obviously, let's talk about, today's games. Man United taking on Sunderland in what is just an amazing thing looking at the table. Sunderland sitting in 6th, Man United down in 14th. I mean, Melly,
Newcastle?
I'll come to you.
Well, thanks very much, I'm off.
keep scrolling, right? Keep scrolling.
We can talk about them soon. It's going to be a fantastic game for me. Just as a neutral, obviously as a Borough fan, we'll be playing at the same time, so I'll be watching them. But it'll be interesting to see the result. And Teddy, I'll come to you first, mate. Sunderland sitting in 6th against Man United heading to Old Trafford with Man United in 14th. I mean, it's an incredible afternoon for any Mackem who's been dreaming of away days like this. And obviously, in a game like we've been leading up to, in what could be so crucial for the future of Man United, and their coach and everything like that, but also for Sunderland, for Regis to get another win, another notch in his cap going into another international break against Man United. I mean, what could be better?
I think we just need to calm down about talking about winning there, right? Let's just everyone calm down a little bit. I read an interview with Granit Xhaka talking about the game earlier on in the week, and listen, he is everything that epitomises why Sunderland are doing so well so far this season. In our skipper, we've got somebody with the experience and with the class and just the pedigree of the kind of player you want in your football club. And it's very much about, hey, ignore what form Man United are in right now, because it's still Manchester United. I'm not blowing smoke up Melly's arse or anything like that. It's still Man United, though, right? It's still one of the biggest clubs in the world. So let's give them the respect they deserve for that first initially. We've just got to go there and do our thing. We're talking about promoted teams going up. We've done it very differently to the way that the company did with Burnley a couple of seasons back. We're doing it differently to what Leicester City did it last season. We're not going there to play expansive football and try and beat them. We're going there to try and frustrate them, shut the fans up, and try and hit on counter-attacks. We just need to go about our business and concentrate. So it's about the back four. It's about the keeper, who's been an absolute revelation, by the way. Melly, if Man United wants some advice on how to buy a goalkeeper, I think it's maybe we could forge some introductions there, because for 15 million, bear in mind, I'll say it again, the money we got for Job and for Tommy Watson. We've paid for Mukiele from Paris Saint-Germain, Alderete, who scored last week, who just looks an absolute colossus, and Robin Roofs, the goalkeeper. It's just fantastic business. They're the guys who are going to stop us getting beat, first of all, and then we take it from there. I think it's just about going to do our thing, ignore form, ignore what the press is saying. As far as odds are concerned about us apparently being favourite, I'm ignoring all of that. Let's go there, do our thing, defend well, and anything's a bonus after that.
Well, Melly, coming over to you, mate. Obviously, it reads like this: you've played 34 matches against each other, Man United versus Sunderland. Out of the 34 matches, Manchester United have won 24 of them. Sunderland only have won 4, and there's been 6 draws. Are you confident today going against Sunderland, regardless of the table?
Absolutely not. I think everything that was said there, I think you need to. Other teams are coming to Old Trafford and they're taking the different approach, and it works for them. They're not given with the respect, because we don't deserve that anymore. Yes, our history is rich, but it's the now, and teams are coming there and they're not respecting that, and that's what is winning them games. And I think Sunderland, they're going to play a counter-attacking football. They're going to sit and they're going to break, like you say, and they're going to shut the fans up. But our fans now are so frustrated, especially the home fans, because we get a lot of tourists in there. It's not hardcore United. And when the going gets tough, they get onto the backs of the players, So I'm not confident, but I think we are going to win. We need to win for, Amorum's sake, bless him. But it's not going to be as plain sailing. Normally, I would be saying 4-0, but I would take 1-0 now, to be fair, because Sunderland have been strong. It's as simple as that. They've gone to Crystal Palace, who are a very good team. Is it Glasner? Is that right? The manager of Palace. He's done a fantastic job. But can I just say quickly, the signing of the season was Granit Xhaka for Sunderland.
Yeah,
honestly.
100%.
Yeah, no, it's been fantastic. What a captain, and to walk in as a role model there in such in what was against your recruitment strategy, Ted, of going for youngsters. The whole ideology that we'd come out of Sunderland for the past 12 months was that we're going young. You saw the likes of Bellingham, obviously, and selling him on, and it was never an older player, but then you just completely go left field and managed to get Granit Xhaka, and I think it's been a fantastic signing, an incredible signing. I want to ask you, Ted, just quickly before we move on to Newcastle and talking about them against Nottingham, obviously Middlesbrough to Portsmouth as well. Ahmad, it's going to be interesting today. I can't remember the last time that you'd be facing as much as a Sunderland fan as Ahmad was when he was on loan. He's at Man United today. Are you expecting him to give you a bit of a break, or are you expecting an Ahmad performance here, Teddy boy?
Nice. He's one of the most naturally gifted footballers I've ever seen, to be honest. And he'll do his job. He's absolutely adored by Sunderland fans. I don't think that'll ever change. Even if he scores a hat-trick today, it might jeopardise his weekend relationship with us. But other than that, he's absolutely adored by Sunderland fans, and he's one of them players that in years to come we'll think to ourselves, my God, how did we ever get him? Because he's getting better and better. I think he'll have a great game. He'll have a point to prove. He wants to put a show on for both sets of fans, I guess. But Yeah, he's the man to watch today, without a shadow of a doubt.
And give us a prediction, Teddy boy, as well. We got Melly's score.
Okay, it's a tough one because I think Melly might not be far off with his estimate of 1-0, but I'll go with my heart because I'm the eternal optimist. I'm going to say we'll come away with a 1-1 draw.
Ooh, 1-1. Stevie lad, obviously it's a massive game. We don't really care. I mean, they could beat each other up for as much as we like, mate. But what is your prediction today in Man United versus Sunderland at Old Trafford?
Go for a draw. I'm going to go for a draw. It's what I want, to be fair, but I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. It's no good really to Man United, but Sunderland I think will be happy with that, certainly. Just before Melly goes, because he's got his sun lounger to go and put the towels on. Specsavers, Man United fans, if you bring your glasses to any of our stores, we'll swap them for a blindfold so you don't have to watch this anymore. Just for when you get back, mate.
Really? Hey? He brings you
Steve,
on and he gives you a jab.
A touch on a comment there that I seen before. We had a profit because we sacked 300 plus members. That's what I mean by we've got shit in place, so to speak. We didn't need 300 extra members of staff. This club's been run from the Glazers in America, and everybody's just been picking up money for nothing. It's proven now that it wasn't needed, so we're making the right moves, mate. We are on the right. I know you're totally against what's happening, mate, and you think that we're stuck. But I think behind the scenes, things is happening, and it will get better. We need to stick with them more. But I'm absolutely over the moon that Sunderland's above us in the league. Never mind us, honestly.
Get yourself, just make sure you get yourself a big waterproof coat, mate, because the winter's coming and that stand where you stand.
There's been more insults in the last 15 minutes than 2 series of this show.
Watch out for them rats and mice running around as well.
A little fans there as well.
Thanks for coming on. Thanks for being here. Thanks for talking Man United, as always. It was Melly. You can catch his podcast. And it was fantastic to have him on. Good friend of the show, good friend of Steve Wraith as well. Thank you for joining us, Melly, as always. Now, let's talk about Newcastle versus Nottingham Forest. Before we finish off the show, we're talking Middlesbrough versus Portsmouth away today. Let's go straight to Newcastle, where it's another similar story. I mean, there seems to be these similar stories. It's a big game for Ange Postecoglou in the Nottingham dugout. As Teddy said, he's only played, it's only been a certain amount of matches and he's already up for the sack. Steve, Newcastle going to Nottingham Forest. Elanga making his return as well. We have seen, there is a little bit of a spice in this one, I think, because Newcastle and Nottingham are sharing so many history of players. Obviously, Anthony Elanga now in Newcastle colours, but we still look at Chris Wood. I mean, I still think of Chris Wood in his time at Newcastle. Elliot Anderson as well, obviously. I mean, there's little stories and little pockets all over this game for me. But the biggest one for Nottingham Forest fans and for us Australians as well is, will Ange get the sack after this game?
Yeah, I mean, this is huge for Ange Postecoglou. I feel sorry for the guy. I noticed there's been no comment about winning the trophy in his second season on this occasion. Doesn't look like he's going to get a second month, never made a second season. But yeah, I mean, look, he's come in, he's changed the system, he's dropping players left, right and centre, and it certainly hasn't gone down well. And I'm not saying it's all at the feet of Ange Postecoglou. The owner's got a lot to stand for at Forest. His knee-jerk reaction with Nuno hasn't gone down well in the dressing room.
Nope.
And it looks as if the unification in that dressing room is now, there's a split. They have got good players. It is still a dangerous team that we're playing against, and if they get their act together, they can cause Newcastle United problems. We just need to look back to Chris Wood winning, getting a hat-trick and Newcastle getting beat a couple of seasons ago. So for me, listen, you've still got to turn up, you've still got to be professional, you've still got to do the job. But yeah, we've got such a bounce from Wednesday night that I don't expect Newcastle to struggle with this one. Under Nuno Espirito Santo, Forest were ticking along. They did okay on the road. They got a 1-1 draw Palace, 1-1 draw Burnley. They did lose at Arsenal 3-0, which is no surprise. But yeah, under Ange Postecoglou, they've lost. They've lost, and they've lost badly in games that they should have really been winning. Ange doesn't travel well to St James's Park either. With Spurs, he lost 4-0 and he lost 2-1. So everything points really to a Newcastle win, and it's a case of how many goals Newcastle can score. The only injury concern we've got, I mentioned earlier, is Tino Livramento. Of course, he's out. Johan Wisser, of course, is still out as well. Jacob Ramsey could be on the bench, though, this weekend, which is great news and a boost to Newcastle's squad and gives us something a little bit different. And I'm also pleased that we've had an extra day's rest and an extra day to recover from our Champions League exertion and trip, because of course Forest got involved in European action on Thursday night and lost 3-2. So it's a game where there's a lot at stake, for Ange Postecoglou and Nottingham Forest, but a lot at stake for Newcastle to go into the break still in the Carabao Cup as holders, still in that Champions League. In the Champions League running, open running in the Champions League, and with 3 points in the bag from Nottingham Forest, and at the right end of the table, that would be really good going into the international break for Newcastle.
Give us a prediction, Steve, while you're there.
Newcastle United to win by 3-1, and Chris Wood to score the goal for Nottingham Forest.
Wow, Teddy boy, we come to you. Newcastle taking on Nottingham. This is an interesting one, obviously, for the sake of Ange, but also the sake of Newcastle, who unfortunately find themselves in a really massive need to find 3 points in the Premier League. I mean, they need to start climbing that table, and fast. We look at, it's funny to sit there and we look at the likes of Aston Villa and we say, geez, they've had a rough start to the season. And we look at the likes of Nottingham Forest. Well, Newcastle United are equal with Aston Villa, and they're only 1 point ahead of Nottingham Forest. I mean, it's a big afternoon for both.
It is. I mean, I think Newcastle are part of that group of teams that will climb out of there. It's still like sort of if I used to work in horse racing at one time, when you see them all sort of collecting around the start, it's always a little bit of a messy start to the race, and this is no exception. And I don't expect to see Villa down there. I don't expect to see Newcastle down there for long either. I think West Ham will also start and pull clear of there because they've got a good manager in place there now. Where this game is going to be won and lost is basically with the centre backs, and this is fresh from watching them last week, Steve. I think if your centre backs are organised in Chow and Botman, I think you've got two very, very decent centre backs there. I think they can more than withstand what Chris Wood's got to throw at them and what the Forest front line have got to throw at them in general, really. And where it's going to be won for Newcastle is in Forest centre backs, because certainly on set pieces they just look so nervy and so disorganised. It's almost like easy pickings. I mean, don't get me wrong, Alderete took his goal extremely well when we scored against him last week, but they shouldn't be allowing a centre back to get a bend and run in ahead of their back four. It just looks so disorganised and nervy, and I honestly think, I hate to say it, I like Ange. I think he's not box office, don't get me wrong, but he's a good character to have in the Premier League. I enjoy listening and talking about football.
Love the Aussies.
I think he's got a good philosophy towards football as well, mate. But ultimately, I can see this being an absolute cricket score, mate. I really can. I can see Newcastle coming out this very 4-0. Honestly, I honestly see this as a massive win for Newcastle. I think they'll get the points, and I unfortunately I can't see, in as much as it's not Ange's fault. This is all about their owner, by the way, who's an absolute walking pantomime. But it's all about them, and unfortunately, I think it's going to cost Ange's job in this case.
Yeah, I think it's going to be 3-0 to Newcastle. I can't see anything but a Newcastle United victory against Nottingham. I just think they're shambles, and it's got, where it started was that whole letter with Crystal Palace making it, and then not, and Nottingham Forest wanting to, he's again the owner writing a letter saying that we deserve it because Nottingham Forest, blah 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 blah. And I think it's all stemmed from there. And you've seen it with Nuno. You saw
very emotional, the Greeks.
Yeah, not wrong. And he came on the pitch at the end of last season when Nuno had lost that game as well. I mean, it's just shambles there. But I think it's going to be an easy Newcastle win. I'm going for 3-0. Let's wrap up the show with the best club in the world, Middlesbrough FC, taking on.
Hang on. You didn't give us your Sunderland prediction.
Didn't I?
No.
Oh, okay. I do apologize. I do apologize. I thought I told you that I'm going for a 1-1. I agreed with you. I thought I said I agree with you, a 1-1.
Really? All three of us gone for a 1-1 draw.
I'm going for a 1-1. Yeah, I've gone for a 1-1. I just think Sunderland are going to dig in, but I just don't think Man United have enough to get past the defensive likes. And I think Xhaka, honestly, is going to carve up the likes of Bruno and that. The only thing I'm interested to see out of this game is how Ahmad plays against Sunderland, because it'll be the first time I think he's had to face a club that he loves, because we Middlesbrough fans, we went for him last January, and it was that much of a ruckus that he ended up putting a Sunderland picture on his Instagram page just to show that he would never come to us. So it's incredible. So that's the big one for me, but I'm going 1-1. Sorry, Steve, did I cut you off?
No, I'm just making sure that we don't miss the cat out before the end of the show.
Oh, well, we can get the cat. We get the cat as well. We got to get the cat as well. But we just got to quickly get Middlesbrough's pictures in. Middlesbrough fans travelling down to Portsmouth, second time to the South Coast in the space of a week, and a massive game needed where we need to get 3 points. Middlesbrough are unfortunately going to be without George Edmondson, who was confirmed with that hamstring tear, 5 to 6 weeks out without another centre back. But the good news is Dale Fry comes in and can replace him. But we seem to be interchanging our centre backs like we change our underwear at the moment. It's ridiculous. But the good news as well for the injury front is Callum Britton comes back as well. So you would think Middlesbrough will adopt that left and right wing back. The big story for me today, Sammy Silvera. Sammy Silvera was on loan at Portsmouth last season, and he was arguably given one of the worst receptions you'll ever see. Don't underestimate this one, Middlesbrough fans. Sammy Silvera, and I've spoken to him through DMs, was hurt. Was really, really hurt the way he was treated at Portsmouth. Now, he says in an interview that, he could see why, and, I'm not blaming anyone here, but I really expect Sammy Silvera, if he gets a chance today, to have a really good performance against Portsmouth, because the way he was treated there was absolutely shocking. Fans booing him to his car outside the arena. It went to a step too far when they take it outside of the game. So I thought it was a shocking way to treat Sammy Silvera, and it's the first time he's coming back. The best thing that he said to me, and the thing that I've heard from Sammy Silvera, is that Middlesbrough are like a family, and we are going to be like a family getting around Sammy Silvera today, because he's one of our own now, and we're going to protect him. And I'm going for a big Middlesbrough win today, lads. Portsmouth's languishing down the bottom of the championship. I think Middlesbrough can take advantage of that. We've had a tough couple of draws against Southampton and now Stoke, but I think we're going to be able to hit our straps today. I think David Strelic is going to get a bit more freedom, and we're going to see a little bit more freedom up the top, which gives us those strikers. I'm going to go for 3-0 today, and then we'll get to the cat. Teddy boy, Middlesbrough versus Portsmouth.
Yeah, I've been really impressed with Sammy Silvera so far this season, mate. When he has played, he's looked sharp and lively, and I fully expect him to shut up the Pompey fans today. I've never been a fan of Pompey fans at all. So, yeah, I actually hope that Borough stuff them. I'm going to go for a conservative 2-0 and Silvera to get on the score sheet.
Yeah, Tyne, I would love nothing more to see Sammy Silvera score. Stevie Ladd, Middlesbrough taking on Portsmouth away from home, but a game that Middlesbrough should be taking 3 points from.
Yeah, 2-1 to Middlesbrough. I think Middlesbrough will nick it with a Peter Beardsley style goal to finish it off, like that wonderful muddy pitch that he managed to round 7 players and slot the ball in. So 2-1.
2-1. It is going to be an interesting affair. Make sure that if you are travelling today, you do take safe. Obviously, the storm is up and about. But before you go, we're not going anywhere. Sit back down, because before you go, we have to give you the time that everyone looks forward to. It's time for Troll of the Week.
Couple of things to start with. This was on Newcastle's European tour in the Champions League. Slags, bags, and Volta mags. I love that sticker. It's on a toilet bowl. This one caused a big hoo-ha on Twitter in Sunderland. Rest in peace, Bruno. Rest in peace, Tonali. Rest in peace, Alan Shearer. Rest in peace, Anthony Gordon. Rest in peace, Dan Bernier. Halloween bar display. If you haven't seen that, find it on social media. The outcry on it's been hilarious.
Wow.
It really has. But
cheeky.
Yeah, it is cheeky, yeah. But that's quite a good looking mask for Sunderland, Ted, is it? The green one.
Wow. Oh, the green one, right.
Alexander Isak, another photograph sent was of Alexander Isak shopping. Excellent. Thank you for this. This was a brilliant one as well. This is an Everton fan. No, was it not an Everton fan? An Ipswich fan, sorry. Walking to the match with a Newcastle United tattoo on his calf. Bizarre. Yeah, bizarre.
What's happened there?
I don't know. That is weird. A couple of late arrivals from the lads, in case it kicks off at the vets. And when you leave an away game with 3 points, ever been stopped taking something into the match? Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. This guy wasn't stopped taking a deer into the game. Unbelievable. Yes, and Nottingham Forest last night. It must have been a stag.
Must have been a stag.
Well
done, Teddy boy.
We don't plan this show, but this is a stag do. This is a Middlesbrough fan who's been taken by his mates with a Newcastle United top on and some Sunderland shorts.
Oh, no. No. Unlucky, lad.
Excellent. And the final two, we've got a similar theme, lads, this week. This one, Frank Chipper was back on form. Harvey Barnes' goal against Union St. Giles means he and his father, John, are the first father and son to score for the same team in Champions League history. Yes, people believed it. But the winner, by country mile, is this one, lads. I love this. I really do. Breaking, John Barnes has been declared bankrupt after the Liverpool legend ran up debts of 1.5 million. Jimmy replies, "You've got to spend and save, but do that right time." That's excellent. Brilliant stuff. That's it.
That is all we've got time for on Three's a Crowd. It's been a fantastic show. Shout out to you, Melly, again. Thank you so much for joining us, the Man United fan, for coming in and talking to us about Sunderland versus Man United. You got Newcastle taking on Nottingham Forest. Good luck to anyone travelling today or tomorrow in the games. Please be careful. There is obviously Storm Amy about. It's going to be an interesting affair. We will be back during the international break next week, but make sure you like and subscribe and consider commenting. Let us know down below if you're a travelling supporter and how you go in the Storms. Please be safe out there and take care of one another. Up the Middlesbrough, up the Mackhams, and up the Geordies as we go into another international break. Can you believe it? They're taking club football away from us again for 2 weeks, but it's going to be a massive afternoon. Good luck to everyone. Make sure you like and subscribe. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for over 500 watching live as well. I cannot believe it. Every week I'm saying the same thing. Over 500 of you tuning in live. I cannot believe it. Thank you so much to each and every one of you. Love you all. Take care of one another, and we'll be back next week for more Three's a Crowd, the Northeast Football Podcast.
Three's a Crowd podcast will return. That's not a threat. It's a promise.